I'm going to start off, Paul Tough. Paul Tough. And just talk, let's talk. Tell me about yourself.
It's not an interesting story.
Right. You've been in Japan how long now?
18 months.
18
actually less than that. It's winter. I arrived last August, so 14, 15 months.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
It's been a bit of a roller coaster, I can tell you.
But the way I know you is because you're the head of the British school.
Indeed.
Here in the Shibuya campus.
Yes.
You're from Wales.
Yes.
Right? Because I told you the joke about being English. I said that because I had my boys in your school.
Oh, of course.
I had my boys went there. 3 of my sons went to the British school.
Yes.
And I said, why do British think they're better than Americans? And you look at me and say, why? I said, because they know they are. I said, why don't they think they're better than Americans? Right? Because they know they are. Anyway, I'm done.
And I think I said that's the
He's
English.
That's the English. That's the
Welsh.
English, not the Welsh. Right. Right.
Well, there's a distinct difference between the Welsh, the English, the Scots, and the Irish, without doubt.
Of course they have to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I always wonder why the Irish didn't like things. They're right next to them because they'd been subjugated by them, right?
Absolutely.
And same thing with the Welsh, and same thing with the
So
the Scots, everyone.
as well. Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you think? Why do you think that is? Just historically, better organized, the English?
I think better resources because obviously a bigger country, much bigger population. Wales was taken into the United Kingdom 600-700 years ago,
right?
And the population would have been very, very small. Wales is a mountainous country.
Okay.
People living in the hills and the sort of valleys.
Right.
Whereas England, you've got huge pastures and great cultivation. Big cities or big towns, etc. So no, in terms of its development, I think it was a little bit ahead. But I've been in Asia for 20 years.
20 years?
21 years now.
Tell me,
my 22nd actually.
When did it start? Where did it start?
When did it start? It started in 1999 in Hong Kong.
In Hong Kong?
Yeah.
So how long did you stay in Hong Kong? Well, give me the route. So how long were you in Hong Kong and then?
Well, I was in Hong Kong for 20 years.
Oh, so this is the only second place you've been. So the same with the person over development. You just introduced me to. What's his name?
Yeah, absolutely. Ben. So Ben.
15. You said 15 years.
He was in Hong Kong for 15 years. Ben and I worked at my previous school with his wife Eleanor.
Okay.
So they've both joined the school this year. Ben's joined as director of operations. She's
Wait,
joined
so
as
you
head
brought
of primary.
well, you can say.
Yeah,
so you kind of say, guess what?
Yeah, absolutely.
I got a place here.
Yeah, we've got a great school.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Were you over a school in Hong Kong too?
So I worked. This is my 4th international school.
Okay.
This is my 2nd headship. So I was head of a school in Hong Kong.
Okay.
But prior to that, I worked in 2 other schools where I was deputy head in various positions.
What school in Hong Kong were you over?
So I worked for an organisation called the English Schools Foundation.
Okay.
And they have about 22 schools in Hong Kong.
Right.
They've been there for decades and decades.
Yeah.
But during that time, I've been to Japan many times, as you can imagine, skiing and traveling. So I always knew I wanted to come if the opportunity arose to actually come and work here.
Wow.
And I visited BST many years ago.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, when a guy called Michael Farley.
Michael Farley was over it,
yes.
Yes, good guy.
Yeah, and had the opportunity to see the school and looked at it from afar and kept an eye on it. And when the opportunity came up, I thought, why not?
Wow. Because you have now the school's going to be moving into a new location in 2022?
23.
23.
So,
and you're going to be here during that time, hopefully.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Yes,
there you go.
That's part of the job.
Yeah.
That was part of the appeal, really. So we're moving all of the primary school, so the Shibuya campus here, and also part of the Showa campus.
So what will your position be then? Same as it is now?
Yes. So my role is head of the entire school, so Showa and here.
Even now?
Yes.
I thought you were just over this.
No, both.
Because before they had 2 separate entities, right? Didn't it?
So they have a principal, which is me,
right?
And they have 2 heads of campus. So there's a head of primary and a head of secondary.
Okay, all right.
So yes, my job is to oversee both.
Oh wow! But you spend more time here, don't you?
I tend to come here in the mornings and then
go there
in the afternoon.
Oh, so you do both equally? Yes. Okay.
The idea being because the children here are younger and parents come and drop them off, I get to see more parents here. Right. I think it's a good thing to see them in the mornings.
Right. I should be fair with everyone in this podcast that you didn't know we were going to do a podcast today.
No,
You're just going to talk. So why don't you just talk to me about what we're doing instead of it being an interview? Just tell me what we were going to talk about. You obviously had things you wanted to ask me and talk to me.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you for everything that you've done for our community.
Come on,
absolutely.
come on.
No, you obviously you've had an association with the school for such a long time, and so many families had great experiences, and kids have had great experiences with your classes.
Well, I think as an expat in Japan, it's very easy to, the people are vetted by their companies, first of all, when they come over here. And you don't come to Japan unless you're coming to give something.
Yeah.
That's one thing that's pretty sure about it. Because if they come over here thinking they're going to take anything, they don't stay very long in this country. And it's just, I had my kids in the school after the school had opened just for 3 years. Margaret Thatcher came here to inaugurate the school.
Oh, you remember that?
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't here when she did it because I was here when the school was being built. And then 3 years after she came, and the school had already established, I put my kids in the British school. Because I had my first son at the American school. And you know the fees here are really high. You're paying a college tuition to have your kids in a nursery school. So I'm paying 3 million yen a year to have my son come home with drawings. And I said, what'd you do all day? Well, I napped and played out in the sandbox. That's it? No, I don't think so. So I came to British school. I looked around and said, wait, you got to get something a little bit better than that. So I came to British school and they said, look, your kids are required to bring home 3 books that the parents need to read to them until they can read. Yeah. They learn how to write print and cursive. I said, you start off right away? I said, now I'm going to get my money's worth. So I kept my kids over here for a while. And then after that, then I found even a way that I enjoyed even more. My wife didn't. I had them homeschool. Oh, did you? I brought a girl over here from England. I sure did. I brought a girl over here from England and had them homeschool. I had her, got an apartment for her in Shibuya, and I had my kids work with at home. And I could set the curriculum up. I bought the curriculum and took out the things I didn't like, left in what I liked. And she'd take them out every day somewhere. Just from England. It was good.
So how long did that last for?
About a year and a half.
Right.
A year and a half.
And then
my wife,
school, high school?
They became very close. No, they were still in elementary. Then my wife said she wanted them to socialize with other kids, but I'd already gotten them really tight with each other. Yeah. And the rules were pretty clear about who their best friends were, which would be each other. Right. I have 4 sons. And
so you homeschooled all 4?
No, just the first 3. Okay. Because the youngest was too young.
Right.
And only for a short while. I didn't do anything. They were being homeschooled, and I'd just come in and check on it to be sure it was done right.
How did they make the transition back into a school?
It was hard. It was hard, but for little kids, they don't know. That was just their life. When people tell me sometimes they're doing something for their kids, I said, don't put that off on your child. That's a part of their life. So I don't care what, this mask wearing, that's the way they grew up.
Yeah, of course.
Traveling. The first time I got on a plane, I was in my late teens. I was 19 the first time I got on a plane. But these kids, my kids, that's all they know. Traveling, the internet. They don't know how to type. They've never put a record on a turntable. They don't know those things any more than I ever had a horse and buggy. Yes. Like my parents might have.
Yeah, of course.
It's a little different.
Of course.
So that's how my kids were raised here, and that's how I was involved with the British school. Right. And I tried to get on the board.
Oh, did you? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And they said during the British Fest, some of the guys that were on the board, they said,
"You're not British."
No. They said, you're too busy. I said, I'm not that busy. They said, you're too busy. So use your time. So politely saying, nah. Right. Even though I had 3 boys here, I was putting an ad, a full-page ad, in their yearbook every year. Yes. I said, okay. So I took my kids out. No one complained. I had them homeschool. Yeah. I did that for a year and a half, as I said. And then I put them in Japanese schools, because my wife's Japanese. So they could learn to read and write Japanese. I want to make sure. So they stayed in there in elementary school. Then I sent them to very close to the British school, YIS, Yokohama International School, fantastic. And St. Moore. Right. I had 2 boys at St. Moore, 2 boys at YIS. And they loved it.
Did you live out there?
No, I lived here. The train system is fantastic. Straight from Meguro Station, right there. Yeah. Same time as going to SIJ. Education's different. The kids were close, and the school was good. And I liked having my kids out there because I wasn't close with the administrators, having been a teacher at the American school. And knowing all the kids at all the teachers at Nishimachi and Sacred Heart. I didn't want that, because I didn't want my kids to get special treatment or anything, or unusual treatment. Okay.
So you didn't run any groups or classes at?
As a matter of fact, I did later. All right. But I waited until my kids were out of school before I ran my program there.
And they graduated from
2 from St. Moore and 2 from YS. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And you don't have kids, right?
No, I'm single. No,
single, okay.
No children, no wife.
As I was saying earlier, that's why you look so happy all the time. You always come in here happy and cheerful and just living your life the way you want to.
I have enough responsibilities as it is.
Do you come from a big family?
No, actually, a very small family. It's just me and my sister. She lives in Australia, in Sydney. She's an editor of a magazine there.
Is she older or younger than you?
She's younger than me.
How many years? How many years?
10 years younger than I.
Same mom and dad?
Yeah.
Your mom and father. Your
And
mother
my
and father
parents
still
were
living?
very young when they had me. They were 19 years of age.
Are they still around?
Yes, absolutely.
And they're doing well.
Yeah, both living in the same area that we were born in a mining valley in South Wales.
I bet they're really proud of both of you, huh?
I think so. Yeah.
Is your sister married?
She has a long-term partner.
Okay.
Yes. They've been together for a long time.
What's this? You guys watch it.
Yeah,
That's how it's going now. That's how it's going. Yeah.
I think going back to the point about parents being proud of you, I think they're proud, but they're also frustrated at the fact that both of us have lived overseas for such a long time.
And you never had been overseas before with your parents or anything like that?
Well, my background is Greek Welsh. So my parents on one side, my father is from a Greek family, and my mum's from a Welsh family.
Okay.
And when I was a kid, we used to go to Greece all the time, and every summer we'd go, and I'd go with my grandparents. And
so do you speak the language?
I speak a little bit, not much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. How many languages do you speak?
So I went to a Welsh medium school.
Okay.
So I did all my schooling through the Welsh language.
Okay.
And you weren't allowed to speak English in the school.
You weren't allowed to?
No. So it was...
No, that should be your mother's side?
So this was my mother's side.
And she wanted to make sure that happened?
Absolutely. So my mother's side are Welsh speaking. My father's side, or at least part of them, are Greek speaking.
Okay.
Yes, so I've got quite an interesting background in that sense.
My goodness. So when they raised both of you to 10 years difference, so you didn't have the same friends or anything like that, but you came from a small village?
Yes.
And like, what was the population?
It's a series of villages in an industrial valley. So it's an ex-mining valley, a place called the Rhondda in South Wales.
Okay.
I think it was the biggest coal-producing area at the turn of the 20th century. So it had 100 mines in a very small area,
right.
And people from all around the world gravitated there. So it was a pull for immigration. Hence my grandmother ending up there.
What was the population, you said?
So now it's around 60,000.
What was it when you were growing up? Don't say 3.
No, I would say around that. It's been stable for many years.
60,000 the whole time?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's a long valley.
Wow.
South Wales is full of these valleys, which are mining areas and steel producing areas.
What are they doing now? The mines have been closed?
Well, it's a post-industrial world now, and that's the issue, that there's a lot of poverty and
Oh, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Unemployment levels are very high.
So what are your parents doing now?
So my parents are both teachers.
So they're educating the people that are staying?
Well, they're retired now, but that's why I'm a teacher, because I was inspired by both of them.
And that's why your mother wanted to make sure that you spoke the Welsh language?
So she was a Welsh language teacher.
So you didn't have it. If you wanted to get anything to eat or communicate with her at all, you had to speak about.
Absolutely. My dad was a politics and history teacher.
My goodness.
But my grandmother...
But he learned to speak the language well, I'm sure.
Well, it's my first language. Welsh is my first language.
Well, but he maintained his Greek, being able to speak Greek, right?
Well, my grandmother came over to Wales after the Second World War. She was, her family were in the resistance movement against the Nazis, and her father and her brother were executed by them in their local village.
Are you Jewish?
No.
No, okay. I'm just wondering, because that's who they tend to get the most popularity for.
No, it was the Greek resistance movement, and yeah, they were executed. And as a young adult or young girl, she just decided to leave and came over to Wales and set up a series of businesses on her own. She became a fish and chip magnate.
Really?
She ran and set up a series of fish and chip shops in South Wales.
Is she still doing that?
No, she's passed away now.
Oh, she passed away?
Yeah, she passed away.
But your father's still...
Well, my father's still
alive, okay.
Yes. This was my grandmother.
How old is he now? And so is your grandmother.
No, she came across.
Your grandmother,
from Wales,
wait, your grandmother's the one that set up the fish and chips. I was thinking it was your mother. Okay, so your grandmother set this up.
Yes.
Did she pass that down to the family?
Well, that was the intention, but he didn't want to do that. So he wanted to go into education.
Education, okay.
So he became a teacher.
Was he from it was his mother, so did he have a lot of siblings?
One of 4.
And he's number what?
Yes, he's number 4.
Number 4?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you get to meet all of your uncles?
I did, yeah. Okay. And as kids, we as cousins, and we were very close. But over the years, we've just drifted apart, really.
Mm. So you're pretty much on your own, except for you still communicate with your dad?
My parents and my sister.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, your father and your mother, yeah. It's your grandmother that passed away, yeah. So how old are your parents now, just out of curiosity? How old are your parents?
Good question. They're 68, 69.
Okay, because my mother just turned 92.
Oh, you're kidding?
Yeah, I had her here last year. For her 91st birthday, she flew over here.
You're kidding us.
And she loved it. And beat me and then we went bowling. She's an avid bowler. And we went bowling. She beat me by, and I was not trying to give her any benefits. And I bowled a little bit by 1 point. And she said a win's a win. She beat me by, and I looked up at the scoreboard, we were like in the 8th frame. And I said, she's a point ahead. And then she beat me in the game. I said, come on. But the next games were a little different.
Jeez.
The next 2 games we played after that were a little different.
I can imagine.
You know, but my
But
goodness.
She still travels at that age.
She's traveled in 91. And I didn't think much about it until I started thinking about all of the people whom I've met. I met their parents who come to visit when they're here. And some of them are my age. Because I've taught for such a long age. So some of them are 68, 60, or whatever. And I don't like telling them my age because they look like they're really retired. It looks like they're not going to be around a lot longer. And I go, my goodness.
So how old are you then, man?
68. Just turned 68 this year.
So you're the same age as my dad.
Is that right? Yeah, that's right. I could be your father. I could be your daddy. Look at it. He had you at 19 though.
Indeed.
No, I was
Indeed.
no. I had my first son when I was 34. Yeah. I wanted to wait. And for my generation, that was late.
Yeah.
You know, my mother was wondering if I was going to ever get married because my wife and I had dated for 8 years. But after the 5th year, I got engaged because of my grandmother, because I didn't think I'd marry outside of my ethnicity. And my wife, who's a doctor, we have our own clinic, Lee Medical Clinic. And as a matter of fact, she's now the head of Shibuya Ishikai, the Shibuya Doctors Association.
Wow.
Yeah, first female.
That's fantastic.
To be with the Doctors Association. And we have different conversations at home now.
Is she still practicing? She's still practicing?
She still practices. But we have different conversations than we did prior to that because she had never been at the top of an organization.
Yeah.
And now she understands the frustration.
Of course.
Or the challenges, I should put it that way.
Yes.
The challenges of dealing with people and all these different opinions, and some of them don't make, they're completely opposite of what you might be thinking they should be. But we talk differently now, and it's a little, I really appreciate the fact that she's in this position now.
Yes.
Now she sees me differently, I think, too.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, it's a fantastic background, though, and a life story that you have and your family have.
I find it interesting, yeah.
Sorry,
is that your timer?
No, this is...
Because there's only a certain amount of time.
I have to carry the school phone with me just in case something happens. So hopefully nothing has happened. I think we're okay, actually.
What kind of time do we have?
We have another 20 minutes.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
That's good. Yeah, so that's an interesting journey in itself, though, isn't it?
It has been. It's something, like I said, we dated for 8 years, and the last 3 of them we were engaged. And I knew her parents, contrary to what a lot of people want to think, when you have a foreign or international marriage, a lot of times people think, especially here, this society being so homogeneous, I should say, and not being so kind on the outside to foreigners, people would think that I didn't know her parents. I met them the second date, and we weren't even girlfriend and boyfriend then. I met her parents the second date, and always knew them.
Yeah.
And I think it was the 3rd year of us dating that her mother and father started wondering, and I said, no, I'm not interested in marrying you. I told my wife, I have to marry someone of my same ethnicity. It was my grandmother, who basically, when I came home, she said, Lance, I think you need to come home, and I don't think I'm going to be around much longer. Both my grandmother and my grandfather. And I said, Grandma, no. She said, come on home. Interesting enough, she did die the very next year.
Right.
And my grandfather, I think 6 months after her.
Okay.
And they were in their 90s, I believe. Anyway, when I came home to see my grandmother, I said, she said, do I have a girlfriend? I said, yeah. She said, well, she says, that young lady that you said medical school? I said, well, actually, she's doing an internship now. She said, what about her? I said, Grandma, she's Japanese. And she said, and you're black. I said, exactly. She said, are you looking for a black girl? I said, yeah. And she said, aren't there any in Japan? I said, yeah, there's a few there. She said, well, I said, Grandma, the black girls in Japan are coming to Japan to get away from black guys. They're not looking for them. And she said, well, why don't you come back home? I said, I have a business in Japan. I'd already started my gymnastics programs and stuff, and I had a fitness business as well. I was bringing in fitness equipment, Precor. I was bringing in their equipment as well. So she said, well, what about the Japanese girl? And I said, what? She said, don't you think, this would change my whole viewpoint. She said, don't you think 5 years is a lot of time to waste? And it seemed so profound. I'd never thought of that.
Right.
And then she went on to explain, she said, whoever you meet, she's going to have known you longer.
Yeah.
And she must like you
Yes.
to have been with you for 5 years.
Yeah.
I said, we don't live together. She said, regardless. Think about it from her viewpoint. She's in her own country and she's with you.
Yeah.
I said, but who shouldn't be with me? You know, I had an
of
attitude
course,
thinking, who wouldn't have a brand new sports car? And come on, I'm doing, my house the same size as her house.
Yeah.
They own theirs, but I'm renting mine, but still,
Yeah.
you know, I had that kind of attitude. And she said, think about it. So I went home and asked my father who raised me. I said, Dad, if I were to marry someone Japanese, how would you feel about that? He said, you're the one that has to wake up and look at her every morning. I said, Dad, seriously? He said, I'm serious. I had thought all this time, Paul, that my parents would be upset if I didn't marry somebody of my same ethnicity.
That's interesting. Wow.
And he said, no. So I came back and told my wife, I said, let's get engaged. She said, okay. And I said, I want to ask your parents. So I went to her parents' house, and I talked to a friend who ended up being my best man at the wedding, a good friend of mine here, Chuck Wilson. I said, what should I do? He said, don't tell her father how much you make. I said, why? I said, because it might be embarrassing. So just say you make this amount. That'd be enough to maintain you and your wife, and he'll appreciate that. So I did. I went over to the house and I told the mom and dad. Her brother was there, her younger brother. I think he's 2 years younger.
Were they English speakers?
No, this is all in Japanese. Chuck gave me the whole script as to what I should say. So I asked the father, and the mother was over here. And I remember exact sitting. I'm sitting here. Keiko was sitting next to me. Her brother was over there. Her mother was here, and her father was over here in the living room. So I'm asking the father if I can marry the daughter. And he said, after he listened to it, he said, He said, I have two feelings about this. I have a 50-50 feeling. He said, one of my feelings is, I think that you'd make a good husband. You'd make enough. I've watched you over this 5 years. I think you'd be able to provide for my daughter. He said, the other side is, and I said, here it comes. You know, I'm pre-thinking him. He said, I don't think it would work. And I said, why? He said, culturally, you're different.
Yeah.
I said, I like this guy, because I thought he was going to pull the race card.
Sure.
He said, no, culturally.
Yeah.
I said, I love this guy. I can handle that.
Yeah.
And I said, well, culturally, statistically, people of the same culture divorce more and have a harder time than people of different cultures. And the reason being is that they're always learning each other and never feel they own or know each other that well. That's why they tend to make it through a marriage, which I think is hard no matter who does it or how you do it. The mother had different feelings altogether, and I thought I was closer with her, and I was really disappointed in what her viewpoints were, and which I don't want to go through now because I just don't want to go through it, but she was not happy.
Right, okay.
And I thought we were close. I'd taken her to a disco with us before, went to my wife's graduation when she graduated from college together. I wasn't happy about her feelings. But to make a long story short, they conceded after a while because I played hardball.
How were they with your kids and their grandchildren?
Oh, they didn't have a choice.
Okay.
We don't have any grandchildren. None of my boys have children yet. My oldest son is 33. They're trying to follow in my footsteps, I think.
Okay.
And none of them are married. Two of them are living with young ladies. I have young ladies living with them. Should go that way.
And how was it for them growing up as bicultural kids?
I hate to try to tell people because you have to ask them.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised at how they see themselves at times because I raised them to feel very good about who they are. When they were, from the time they could start communicating, I would ask them, and I'd do it. Let's just say if my sons were over there right now and they're playing.
Are they completely bilingual?
Oh yes, oh yes. And there's things I've told them to do with that as well. I said, Superman doesn't go up to people and say, I can fly and bullets bounce off me.
Yeah.
Just shut up. Let people see you the way they think they see you.
Yeah.
Never tell them. Be quiet about it. So and I said, if you speak in Japanese, they're going to assume a few things that won't be in your benefit.
Mm-hmm.
One is your mother probably is not married. You don't speak English. That's so sad for you. As Japanese say, kawaii-san. That's not the idea you want to give them. Speak in English and let them assume you don't speak, read, or write Japanese. Because once you do, that's like going like this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Then you become assuming. Because they think you just learned. They think you just learned it in a few seconds. Because their whole mindset was that you can't speak Japanese. When you do that, it reminds me of the time when I used to go to Hong Kong all the time to renew my visa, and I was in the elevator, and two Japanese girls came in. I was staying in the YMCA, and one floor was for women, the next floor was for men. And I was in the elevator, and girls got in, and the Japanese said, "Oh, this is a handsome-looking guy." And when I got out, which was the floor before theirs, I turned around and said, "Thank you very much" in Japanese. And they went, "Oh!" They were, "What?" And I said, "Yes." They said, "Whoa!"
Yeah, absolutely.
That was good. But anyway, so for my sons, the way I used to raise them is so they'd come over and I'd say, "Who do you love more than anyone else in the whole wide world?" Who do you think they would say?
Each other.
Themselves. And I taught them that. I said, don't before anyone. I said, because if you believe in God, or universal force, as I like to call it, what you are is a universal force gift to you. What you become is your gift to the universe. So you owe it to yourself and the universe to be all you can be. Don't keep on asking for forgive everything. It's up to you now. Because you had a 1 in a 300 millionth of a chance of being my child.
Yes.
Listen, what are you talking about, Daddy? I said, when your mother and father got together, I put 300 million potential human beings in her. And you beat them all out. You beat all of them out to get here. So don't ever think, I picked you. You picked me. So whenever we got in any kind of spirit debates, I said, wait just a minute. I didn't ask for you to be here. You picked me. So what do you think you'd be doing? Because I used to have them teaching gymnastics with me. And they'd get first, after a while, when they got later to the 20s. My oldest son stayed with me till he was 30.
Right.
We don't feel like doing it. I said, well, shoot, if I were a fisherman, what do you think you'd be doing? Fishing. Because you picked me. I did not pick you.
Yeah.
So you won that race.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So that's how I raised them,
Yeah, it's interesting with the school that the demographic of the school is changing significantly.
To Japanese.
Well,
it has to economically.
Bicultural families.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. That's happening throughout the whole system.
I was looking at the stats yesterday, and the number of bicultural families in the school now is significantly larger than any other group. When I say, bicultural, I mean within the context of Japan, one Japanese parent,
one other culture.
Yes.
Yeah. But see, that's happening throughout the world with the expat community, because corporations no longer have to send their people to those countries.
Yes.
So they're hiring locally, cutting their expenses, and now they put us all online because of these masks and stuff. So now they're making it's like self-service gas stations.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was a time when everyone else you stayed in your car. Now you have to get out and pick. It's just changing the whole world. How do you? I'm just personal questions. You never wanted to have kids? Or are you thinking you're going to have kids?
I've never wanted to. Well, no, that's a lie. I think I probably did at certain times, but I'm at a stage in my life now where that's past.
How old are you now?
I'm 48.
Oh, come on, you still have time. I have friends that got married in their 50s.
No. To be honest, with work is a big enough responsibility as it is.
That's your child. That's your child.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But no, I really enjoy my work. My work is my passion, and I say to staff that life is about the relationships you have with people, but it's also about the enjoyment that you have from what you do.
Why do you like it so much? What do you like about it?
I love the interactions with people. I love the interactions with parents.
Yeah, because all your parents are over there right now. I wonder what
I just love it. And every day is different. You're dealing with the dilemmas and the problems and the issues that individuals have, and they are always different.
Name a tough time for you in your career so far. What was a tough time that you don't mind talking about?
We've just gone through it.
What was it?
The COVID period. So the period where the campus was online. And
that's right. You did such a good job with that too, because you opened before any other international school. You guys opened up and were full force. What made you decide to do that? Didn't you have a hard time with your board? Or?
No. We wanted to open up as quickly as possible because we felt that we had the strategies in place and that we had mitigation things in place at the school so that we could do that. No, it was a tough time for the school community, for parents and for teachers and for the kids, and we needed to get the school back up and running as quickly as possible.
So where do you think it's going to go? Where do you think it's going to go from here? The COVID.
Well, we're preparing for another school closure, so we're putting everything online. So if something
you think
happens
because of the cold weather and everything and the flu season coming out?
But also, of course, for any other emergency.
Right.
We now have the capability overnight to move everything to a virtual environment. So if something happened today, the school would still be in operation tomorrow, even if those buildings couldn't open. So that, I think that's been the massive...
But you have to keep teachers online, so you continue to pay them regardless.
Yeah. Right. But we've got the curriculum online, we've got everything online already. You can just switch overnight now. And that's been the great thing from the whole experience.
Right.
Yes, it was emotional. Yes, it was taxing. Yes, we were dealing with people's anxieties and frustrations.
What were some of the biggest anxieties you felt?
Well, as you can imagine, there were some parents who wanted us to get back as quickly as possible. Others felt that we should
completely opposite.
Yeah, completely opposite.
Yeah.
Some parents were happy with the level of online learning. Other parents felt
it's not close enough. Yeah.
So
You always have to do that. Someone told me this advice once before. They said, I was listening to comedians before, and they said, never practice your craft based on the few loud people that you're dealing with.
Yeah, of course.
It's hard not to.
Of course.
Because the same comedian said, it's unfortunate, but we always pay attention to that one person that doesn't applaud. Everybody else, you can have an audience full of people that are applauding, love what you're doing.
You're right.
That one person that doesn't is the person that always gets our attention.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? Because that used to be the hardest thing for me. And I always thought the worst, I said, if you can learn to love that person you see in the mirror, you'll never have another enemy. Because that person always tells you the worst things about yourself. Looks at me and talks about moles that nobody else can see. You know?
Yeah, I try not to look in the mirror anymore. No, it's about dealing with individuals and acknowledging whatever they think and whatever they feel, and not necessarily agreeing with it, but at least
just
acknowledging it and giving them airtime and giving them the opportunity to talk it through with you. I think that's the most important thing, and that's why I love what I do. As I say, it's about relationships, it's about connection, and different age groups, different opinions, different stakeholders. That's great. I love it.
Wow. I think we can end on that. That was fantastic. Paul, fantastic. Listen,
Thanks,
if people
Leslie.
want to contact you, how would they do so?
Via email. Yep.
Via email?
My email.
The British School?
Yes.
Go get your
I think you have that already.
Yeah, I have to. All right. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is fantastic. We have to do it again.
Indeed.
And next time with your director, we'll do it with him.
Okay, we'll do it in Welsh next time.
Can you do it in Welsh?
I can, indeed.
Tell me a few things in Welsh.
Well,
say something.
Bore da, shwd y'ch chi heddiw?
What'd you just say?
I said, good morning, how are you doing today?
All right. We started the basics. All right.